At some point, you learned a brutal lesson. Not everyone who asks how you're doing wants the truth. So you became careful, measured, strategic with your honesty. You learned how to smile while bleeding internally, how to explain exhaustion without revealing despair, how to turn suffering into humor, insight, or silence. And here is the paradox. Your composure became proof of strength, but it also became the evidence no one questioned. Because when you never show pain, people assume you don't feel it. This is not emotional maturity. It is emotional camouflage, and it was never a choice. It was conditioning. This pattern forms early, not necessarily in trauma, but in relational asymmetry. When emotional expression is met with dismissal, competition, or emotional unavailability, the psyche adapts by shrinking visibility. This is known as self-erasure, a trauma response where the individual minimizes needs to preserve connection. The nervous system shifts into functional freeze. You are productive, articulate, reliable, but emotionally constrained. Add hyper-responsibility, often born from parentification, and you become the one who holds everything together. Not because you're strong, but because no one else ever did. Over time, avoidant attachment strategies emerge, not from lack of desire for closeness, but from the cost of it. Your brain learns. Connection requires performance. Pain risks abandonment. So the default mode network reorganizes around control instead of expression. You think your feelings instead of feeling them. You analyze instead of ask. And you call it independence. Here is the grief beneath the strength. You don't feel met, even when surrounded. You don't feel chosen, even when included. You don't feel known, even when loved. Because love that doesn't touch your truth never reaches your core. You begin to mourn a version of yourself you never got to be. The one who could lean without fear, cry without consequence, need without shame. Jung warned that when the true self is rejected, the psyche splits. One part adapts to survive, the other waits in the dark, unheard but alive. And that waiting becomes exhaustion, not because life is heavy, but because you're carrying it alone. You might recognize these patterns. You are the strong one others lean on. You attract people who vent but never hold space. You feel exposed after opening up. You regret honesty more than silence. You struggle to receive care without guilt. You mistake emotional numbness for peace. You feel safer being needed than being seen. You equate vulnerability with loss of control. These behaviors are not character flaws. They are free strategies. But strategies that once saved you now limit intimacy, creativity, and rest. Because the body cannot relax when the self is hidden. Not all listeners are safe. Never show your pain to those who invalidate emotional nuance, those who gossip or triangulate, those who compete with your suffering, those who rush you to move on, those who use your honesty as leverage, those who are uncomfortable with depth. Your vulnerability is not a public resource. It is a relational privilege. Some people don't lack care. They lack capacity. And exposing your inner world to someone without capacity is not bravery. It is self-harm. Healing is not about becoming open. It's about becoming accurate. Accurate about who is safe. Accurate about what you feel. Accurate about what you need. This work is slow because your nervous system must learn something new. That presence does not always lead to punishment. Inner child. Work teaches the younger self that silence is no longer required for surviving. Shadow work integrates the fear that being seen equals being diminished. Somatic regulation calms the body so truth doesn't feel like danger. Selective vulnerability, though, replaces emotional exposure with emotional intelligence. You don't need many people. You need a few who can sit with discomfort without turning away. And first, you must learn to sit with yourself. You were never wrong for hiding your pain. You were perceptive in an unsafe environment. But strength without softness becomes isolation. Let discernment replace silence. Let boundaries replace self-erasure. Because the goal is not to be fixed, but to become whole. If this spoke to something unspoken in you, share it with someone who carries too much quietly. And stay here. We go deeper next time.